I think excited is the right word. I think transition's another word which you've got to be careful of when you're transitioning, to not get overhyped, so then you become disappointed. I think if you look at Man City's mantra over the years and how they've went about stuff and how long it took them to get there, you have to be patient. You've also got to realise that all the top clubs in the Premier League now are a lot richer than when, for instance, when Sir John Hall had the club, or even when Man City started their voyage. You've got to be patient. It's going to be really, really difficult to break into that top four. I think if you get in the upper echelons of the 10, if you go somewhere 8, 9, 10, I think that's progression. Don't see that as failure. Make sure you understand that, fans understand that this is a journey, and it's a transition journey that you have to be patient with. And I understand, because I'm a Newcastle fan. So over the years, I'm one of those that gets too excited and too down. We're going to win the league or get relegated. There's no in between. There's never any in between. So what we've got to do as supporters now is realise that it's being built, and as we go over the years, as long as we're seeing progression, and as long as we're seeing better players come in, as long as we're seeing the money's being spent in the right way, and you've got a good technical director who's been brought in, Dan Ashworth, who can build the club and his contacts, then that's what you need to see. You need to see progression on a year-on-year basis, but it won't happen overnight. It certainly won't. So people don't want to get too excited. You might have one good season, and it might be a flash in the pan, but you've got to realise that it's about the top end teams. Whoever spends the most money is normally the one that wins, or roundabout. The league table doesn't lie, does it? Money talks.
It does. But I think the way we're going about our business at the moment, nice, slow, sustainable build, I think that gives us something to really look forward to long term. But obviously one of the main signings so far this summer has been Nick Pope. You'll know all about him. So tell us what we need to know.
Well, for starters, he's a great character, really positive. He's chipper every day. He's fitting well with all his teammates. He's one of them guys that he's impossible to dislike in any way, shape, or form. And what he does, he's a great communicator at the back. He comes for crosses. He's set off for crosses before the ball's even being kicked. He just comes and takes the pressure off his back four. He makes decisions really, really early. He comes and gets it, claims it. He's 6'6". What you'll see is he stops the ball going in the net. It doesn't matter how he stops it going in the net, he stops it. So he's got such a huge presence when strikers or whoever's looking at the goal, he's got such a huge presence in there. There's just nowhere to put the ball half the time. He's just he's a terrific shot stopper. And I'm talking about filling the goal in terms of not catching the ball, in terms of he stops the ball either with his feet or his arms or his wingspan. And he makes he makes really important saves at important times of a game. So if it's 0-0 and somebody has an unbelievable chance, he normally makes that save to keep you in the game, so you can then go up the other end and score yourself. That's what he's really good at. Because at Burnley, there was a load of games when it was 0-0. If we were going to win a game, he had to always make 2 or 3 really good saves, and we'd end up winning 1-0 down the other end. And that's what you've got in the goalkeeper. You've got to remember as well, he was England's #1 goalkeeper. Was it before the last summer going in, and before he got injured and then missed it? So he was actually in the #1 spot. So you've got a goalkeeper who keeps the ball out the net. Most importantly, forget about playing out from the back and all the rest of it. He keeps the ball out the net, and he'll do a great job of that.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see him at Newcastle's first game against Nottingham Forest, which I've mentioned, on the 6th of August. Just finally, Steve, where will Newcastle United be in 5 years' time?
I think they'll be close to the Champions League football, or competing for it. People will say, well, they should be in that, no problem. They should be doing it easy with the money they're going to spend. It's not always that easy to spend money. If you're trying to get the top players have got such options these days to go to your Man United, your Manchester City, your Liverpools. So they've all got the tradition and history and Champions League pedigree over the last few years where they can attract those players still. What Newcastle need to do is build into that, so players then want to come to that. They might have to fork out over the odds for certain players to try and get them to that level, to try and take them off some of these teams. But I see them on the edge of Champions League football. And I think the owners will probably disagree. I think they'll want to see them in Champions League football, but I think they'll be around that position where they're competing with, your likes of trying to think the teams that'll be there. They'll be above all the Aston Villas and the rest of it who are competing around that 7th, 8th. They'll be around sort of that fifth place. And to break in will be a huge achievement, by the way. When they break in, that will be the achievement.
Yeah, that'll be massive. Final one from me, Steve, and it's a question I always ask someone who's experienced this particular individual that I'm going to ask about, which gives a bit of a clue of what I'm going to say. But obviously, you were part of the Euro '96 squad. Tremendous times. God, the '90s were great. But Paul Gascoigne, have you got a Gazza story for us?
A Gazza story, dear me. Well, we used to go, and after U96 games back in the day, you'd probably have too many beers after the game. Do you know, everybody would probably prop back in. We'd all have a few beers afterwards, and Gazza was always the one that used to nick out the back for a cigarette. He was always the one that used to nick out the back, and you have a cigarette. And you think, look at this professional footballer having a cigarette out the back. He's been amazing in Holland and Scotland and all those sort of things. And he'd just be sitting having a few drinks and just a cigarette out the back, as cool as you like, as cool as you like. I mean, I remember one day that we were playing, I think we were playing Holland the next day, or we had one of these teams the next day. And it's about 90 degrees outside. We're all meant to be in bed rest in the afternoon. And Gazza's outside playing tennis with a waiter. He's just outside playing tennis. And he's got one of the biggest games of his career coming around. And that was just him. He was just hyperactive all the time. But I got to tell you, what a great guy. Infectious, genuine, loyal. And really kind as well. He'd give you your last penny, Gazza.
What player?